Hey, friends. Welcome to Dishing on Divorce on WGSN-DB Going Solo Network Radio, Podcasts, and TV. I'm your host, Lisa Lisser, CEO and founder of LZL Coaching, a boutique coaching firm focused on divorce, relationships, and life transitions. In the beginning of my career, I practiced big firm commercial litigation in New York. But when my husband and I began growing our family, I retired to raise my three now grown kids. Between then and now, life happened, and my ex and I grew up together, but we grew apart. We were on different paths. Divorce was the last thing I wanted, but the one thing I needed. And it was hard. Suddenly, I was a divorced single mom trying to put the pieces back together. And I did the best I could with the information I had, but there was a lot I didn't know. As a recovering lawyer, a current educator, spiritual counselor, and a divorce coach who is committed to transforming the divorce experience for everyone involved, I'm here to be your guide on the side, emotionally, strategically, and with an eye on your future. Today's guest is attorney Ann Edens, founding partner of Edens Law Group. Ann and I met as co-authors in a collaborative book project called Divorce Decoded, a manifesto for women navigating divorce and beyond. When I read Ann's chapter, I knew I was working with a kindred soul. We connected and haven't looked back since. So welcome, Ann.
Thank you, Lisa. It's good to be here.
It's good to have you. I'm going to give a little bio and then we'll dig into the conversation.
Terrific.
Ann has been practicing law for 3 decades. She and her firm fully comprehend how family courts operate within the state of New Jersey. They know the ins and outs of the New Jersey court system and are committed to getting the best results possible for their clients. She's dedicated to serving her clients with the highest level of respect and compassion. The key to her success is her commitment to delivering exceptional legal counsel to help her clients overcome the obstacles they face with confidence. And her passion for family law and wealth of knowledge make her a valuable resource for anyone facing legal struggles. Ann and I also both graduated from the same law school, Cardozo Law, and we're committed to making things different for people so that they can move forward in their lives. So, Ann, welcome to Dishing on Divorce.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So let's start at the beginning. I always ask my guests, what's your story? What brought you to do the work that you do?
I don't know that there's any one reason that brought me here, although I'm so glad that whatever multitude of reasons has brought me to this point. I think, and you had the same sort of experience at Cardozo. I think they're just a very progressive law school and sort of thought outside the box, which you have to do a lot of in family law, as you know. And also, I realized during law school and then a little bit afterwards that I didn't want to be big law pencil pusher. I wanted to work with people. And at this level, you are working with people on a very, very intimate basis a lot of times. And it's very gratifying. It's heartbreaking sometimes. It's a lot of things, but it's my passion. It's what I want to do with a law degree, is be there for people.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you can see this in your work, in your chapter that you wrote, and also in the kinds of cases you take and the clients that you deal with. Because you're really there to be a support. And so many people walk into their divorce process in complete fear and terror.
Oh, yes.
So, part of that is the fear of unknown. And that's why we're calling this Demystifying the Divorce Process. But you also mentioned that you often are mystified by the divorce process.
Yes.
So let's sort of dig into that. Tell me a little bit about your clients or the clients that reach out to you and how you meet them where they are.
Well, one of the things that we do at my firm that is a little bit different is we don't have the typical consultation that you would have with a lot of firms. We have what's called a strategy session. We
Okay.
set aside an hour to an hour and a half. And I am there probably for the first half hour, if not more. Just tell me what's going on, because every case is different. I can't just sit here and say, okay, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, until I know what's happening in your life and also how you're feeling about it. Like, how is it affecting you? Are you doing okay? Are the kids doing okay? What can we do to help that situation at home? Are you living together? You're not living together? Is there domestic violence? Is there, all of those issues are different with every single case. So I think the idea of starting with a strategy session and then giving the client an idea, sort of a roadmap based on what they're telling me and my knowledge of the law. Okay, I think we can map out a plan for you. And the hope then, and I think it does work. There's some people that are just frozen with fear, and it takes a couple of sit downs. But for the most part, once somebody starts to hear a road plan that, okay, these are the steps we're going to take instead of this big D divorce word that's sort of hanging over them, overwhelming them, that they can start relaxing somewhat, and they can understand that whatever they tell me is confidential, and that I don't judge anyone for anything. Life and people are life and people.
Yeah.
And so you work with what you have. And this is a safe space for them to be working in my office and with me. And I think that's how it all begins, is sort of gaining the trust, having them trust me, having me let them know that they need to tell me anything and everything, and it's all okay. And then getting a plan.
Yeah. No, I love that, because so often people walk into the first meeting with the lawyer and they're terrified, and they don't know what they can share, what they should share, what they shouldn't share. And they want the attorney to just tell them what will happen.
Yes.
And when they rely on the attorney in that way, without giving all of the facts or information, an attorney might be really good at doing 5 specific things.
Right.
And so maybe that attorney does those 5 specific things with every client. But those 5 specific things might not be what you need for your life and your family.
Exactly.
And so what I'm hearing from you is that you reduce that fear because you actually get to know the client first. And I'm wondering, in that first session, what are the kinds of questions that you ask the client that help them walk through the story with a little less fear, maybe a little less shame? People come in and they feel like a failure.
They do, absolutely. And that's one of the things that we need to take and put over here and say, you are not a failure, and your spouse is not necessarily a failure. And your children are not failures. It's not caused by your children. Whatever preconceptions you have, you need to set them aside. Let's just set them over here. I'm not discarding your feelings, but let's set them over here, because I think when we get through talking, you may think a little bit differently. And then I find it's very, for a lot of clients, or for most clients, just letting them talk. So one of the first things I say is, okay, I'm glad you're here. Welcome. This is a safe space. You can say whatever you need to say. I want to hear from you where you are right now in this process. Have you talked to your spouse? Has something happened that's precipitated this? Has your spouse come home and said, hey, guess what? Love with someone else. See ya. I mean, there's so many ways that this starts. Sometimes it's just a wake up that we're not the same people. We don't have the same goals. We're not in the same place. And I think for a lot of people, that's even harder than someone coming home and saying, I'm in love with someone else, or even my client saying, I am in love with someone else. And again, I don't judge, and it happens. And that's a more definitive than I feel like I've grown apart, but how could I do this to my kids? How could I do this to my spouse? How can I do this to myself? And it's such a big deal. And you kind of, again, have to bring that down. And then the questions I ask along the way is, well, start at the beginning. Is there a way to salvage this? Do you see any way? Would marriage counseling help? Would a trial separation help? I would say 9 out of 10 times, if they're in my office, they've already either gone down that route or at least thought about it.
Yeah.
But I want to put it out there because I also want them to know, and I let them know that even if you answer no today, if in 6 weeks from now, I've had clients embarrassed to call me to say, I'm thinking about maybe going to marriage counseling. You must think I'm crazy after all I've told you. And I say, no. Yeah. It's your choice. It's your decision. So I think giving them all the options, hearing their story, acknowledging how they're feeling, even the shame. Yeah, I can see why you feel like that. And let me tell you from the legal perspective that the court doesn't care. It's not going to affect your custody of your children, which is usually the most important part,
right,
for the client. And it's not going to affect the financial outcome. It's not going to affect X, Y, and Z. So I can hear what they're scared of and sort of put it to rest from a legal perspective. And I think between the two, we can get to a place that's better for them.
That's amazing, because what you're doing is you are greeting them where they are, even if they don't recognize that that's where they are.
Yes.
And by helping people articulate their story or the facts that are related to their story, when they hear it out loud, it can shift perspectives. And,
absolutely.
And I'm sure that what you share with them in terms of their legal options reduces some of the overwhelm.
Yes.
And what I do as a divorce coach is very similar to what you do in your intake call.
Yes.
Trying to figure out, because there's always something that triggers the call.
Yes.
Like, this is the moment I need to make that appointment. And so what's going on to find out what led to that moment?
Mm-hmm.
And have you been thinking about this for 5 years? And then something happened and now is the time. And how do you negotiate all of those feelings within yourself? And do it in a way that you gain some clarity as to what is most important. And from your perspective, as well as from mine, letting clients know that they don't have to make every decision all at once.
Yes. That's a huge part of it, because I think, and for you certainly, but for me also, they come in and they're like, well, don't we have to talk about, the trial and what exhibits I need and what discovery I need and what information, what should I bring? What should I do? What should I breathe? And I use that a lot. The first thing I need you to do is breathe, because it seems to me that you're stopped. And then, it's very fascinating to see when I tell someone to breathe and they do stop and they do take a breath, and then you sort of just see it calm down, and it's pretty amazing. And also, I think you're 100% right, and I know you see it in your profession, is that having someone listen to their story and being extremely non-judgmental about it, just listening and nodding and going, wow, and oh gosh, and how did that work out for you, and how did you address that problem, and that kind of thing. They just keep giving you more and more and more, which is wonderful. But I also think when they hear themselves say it and someone says, okay, that's okay, it's not going to be a problem, the kids are going to be fine, it's such a relief to them to think, okay, I can do this. And also, when I do ask them, do you think there's a way to fix this? It's amazing the number of times I see people really, this sort of confusion go over their faces, and how should I answer that? I don't know. And if I say no, am I, a bad person? And so I tend to talk through that then. And again, since they're already in my office, most of the time they come to the, no, I don't think we can. And then I give them that little piece of information. I told you that if that changes, all you have to do is let me know.
Yeah.
We can pause it. You can try it. If it doesn't work, we haven't lost anything. If it does, that's great. So it's not, again, it's not this, I think people think they start with a divorce and it's just, that's it. It's like a train wreck. You can't ever go backwards, or you can't pause it, or you can't stop it. And you can, and you should be able to.
Yeah, you really can, because also this is your life.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to decide. You are the conductor of this train.
Absolutely.
And one of the things I find so interesting is that I have clients ask me if once they tell their spouse that this is what they want, are they divorced? And I mean, really, like, yeah, we can chuckle about it, but the thing is, it's like, what happens next? Is there a process that happens next?
Yep.
And you know, I have to let them know that there's a lot that's in between telling and the process, and the process is not overnight.
Yes.
So that's what's really scary for a lot of people. One of the things that I found so interesting in your chapter of the book was that you laid out the roadmap for how the process works in court once you're in the court system. So I'd love us to talk about that. But first, we're about halfway through, and we're going to take a 30-second break to have a word from our sponsor.
Wonderful.
We'll be right back with Ann Edens. And we're back with Ann Edens, founding partner of the Edens Law Group. So how does the process work? And I'm going to ask this in a couple of ways, because the process can start in a lot of different ways, right? Like, some people think, okay, I talked to the lawyer, I'm filing the complaint, it's starting. But is that really how most divorces start?
I would say probably 50%. And it's not always because the client I'm speaking with makes that decision to file the complaint. Sometimes when they do go home, and whether it's that day, that week, that month, say to their spouse that I'm not happy and I want a divorce, the other party runs out and files. And I warn them that, not warn them, but I tell them that that is a possible outcome, and we will be ready for it. And it's not going to be the end of the world. It will be absolutely fine. We just need to be prepared that that may happen. So when I have a client come in though and go through their strategy session and I tell them how things are going to work, I always bring up mediation, because mediation is such an amazing alternative to going through a litigation process. And the wonderful thing about mediation, and what I tell the clients, is that we can start it now. We can file a complaint and then start it. We can go through some of the litigation work if you need some relief now, if your spouse is going to be very angry and you think the money's going to get cut off, we can get relief from the court. But you can enter mediation at any point along this road. So always keep it in the back of your mind that this is an alternative, and it's a terrific alternative. We have some amazing mediators out there. And I think even the whole pandemic, when the courts were closing and so backed up, people really turned to it. And I think that's continuing, and it should be, and it's wonderful. And I'm all for it. The other thing I want people to know about mediation is that if you don't resolve everything, you've still made progress. So you're 80% of the way done. That's terrific. Don't throw it out the window and say, oh, didn't work. I'm done. No,
No,
write it down.
I definitely hear you on that. And I have lived experience with that. So, we started with lawyers who we thought were mediation minded.
Yes.
And we had a mediator. And it didn't go at the pace that maybe I would have liked, because sometimes one party responds and the other just doesn't. And in mediation, you don't really have leverage to force the other party to participate. But one thing we did resolve right away was parenting time.
Most important.
And so we had a schedule for when we would be with the kids. We actually decided on nesting, which is a process where the kids stay in the house and the parents rotate in and out to keep the kids settled a little bit longer.
Yes.
But that was the first step. Now, economic issues were not quite amenable at that moment. And so we had to shift. But when like, I feel very blessed that at least we got that decided without much stress.
Absolutely. And if you decide on a parenting plan yourselves, it's going to work.
Yeah.
If someone tells you this is what you're going to do, I'm not going to say it's never going to work. Sometimes it just clicks and it falls into place. But to me, that's the least best. It's not the best option.
Right.
Is to have a stranger say, okay, 2 days here, 2 days there, 1 day here, then every other weekend, and you're confused, the children are confused. Whereas if you put it together, you can live with it. You can do it.
And your life,
yes.
Right? The kids' schedules. How that's going to operate. And so the benefit of mediation, especially in that circumstance, is that you control how it looks. And regardless of whether you can speak to your spouse in the same room, you both are on the same page, or you could be on the same page when it comes to your kids.
Yes.
And, you created them together. Now there is a responsibility that even when you're divorced, you will always be in relationship with this person because of the kids. Yes. And that's something that's very hard for people to swallow when they want to be completely done with the other person.
Absolutely. And I can't think of that. I should count sometime the number of times during the process I say, we need to stop. You're going to be co-parents for the rest of your lives. We're not talking till they're 18. There's going to be prom. There's going to be college. There's going to be graduations. There's going to be weddings. There's going to be grandchildren, possibly. There's going to be great events in life. And you're both going to be there.
Yeah.
For your children. So you just got to put out of your mind that, okay, this schedule will work. And then once they're 18, we're done. Or even, when they go to high school, they'll be, much more independent and I won't have to worry about this anymore. No, you're going to be dealing with this forever. And it's so important that you get something workable now. The children are going to thrive if you can do that. And the alternative is some of these kids that go through really, really tough times.
Yeah. And it's so challenging because there's so much guilt involved in divorce, but specifically with how is it going to impact the kids? And you and I spoke a little bit about that because I work in this BEH2O co-parenting program where our goals are to let the parents acknowledge they both have the shared goal of seeing their children thrive. Yes. And when that's the goal, as opposed to I have to win, or this is the fight I have to fight, people don't realize that goal is actually keep preventing them and sabotaging their vision for their children's future. So
that was said beautifully. That's it. That's it on the nose. It does exactly what it does. And it's tough. I mean, just just today, a client called absolutely livid because the kids spent an extra night over Memorial Day weekend. They were out on the trampoline. There were neighbor kids over, and but he got an extra night. I'm kind of going, wow, sounds like the children were really having a great time, and that was wonderful of you to give them that gift.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
And
one
they'll
night.
appreciate that.
Nice.
It's one night in their lives, but it's important for the kids. And
Yes.
when you're thinking about the kids instead of the balance, like I can't let them get 1 minute more than me, it's hard. And I get it because you're feeling competition, right? That's something people don't like to talk about, and they get very judgy. Oh, you're not in competition with your co-parent. But to a certain extent, people feel like they are.
Of course they do.
And if the kids are having more fun at the other person's home, then you feel insecure. So that's part of the story.
Yep.
But my job is to help the parents see that when you have the grace to allow that to happen and you show your child the grace, your child is going to know that you gave something up.
Yes.
The child will know that you put them first.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think when children see parents resolve things easily, hey, the kids are having a great time. Is it okay if they spend the night? Just wanted to check in with you. That's fine. I'll miss them. Give them a hug for me. Tell them to call me right before bed. They see that, and they see that that's how conflict resolution works. And they take that into their own lives when they're older, when they're in relationships, even not, interpersonal relationships with coworkers, relationships with their employers. Everything down the road is conflict resolution in some way or another. And they are little sponges, these kids, and they hear some interaction like that. They hear dad screaming, why the hell can't they stay? And, mom on the other end screaming, it's my time, it's 6 o'clock, it's 6:05, you're supposed to be here at 6. That's how they think conflicts are resolved. And that can lead to just not great outcomes in the future.
It can lead to not great outcomes. And so part of what we both do is look to our clients and help them reclaim their own identity.
Yep.
And so if we can help them determine that their identity isn't as a victim, but their identity is someone who has agency. So you're making the choice. The choice isn't being foisted on you. It shifts everything.
Yes. And the focus on the children. And I think from a lawyer's perspective, they need to know that my clients need to know that I am got their back. I'm in their corner. I'm going to fight for them, whatever they need to have in their arsenal, so to speak. Which is why if you phrase it, that was great of you, praise them. Don't say, well, you gave up a night. It's no big deal, because it is a big deal. It is.
No, that's 100%. 100%. You're not diminishing their pain at losing the time. You're honoring their grace in letting it happen. And so it's a interesting tightrope that we walk. But small shifts in communication make a big difference. And what we model for our clients can then model in their lives for their children.
Yes.
So that's powerful.
Yep.
All right. So let's go to our next step. So you file the complaint. What happens next in the court system?
Well, the first thing that will happen in the court system, if there are children involved, is the court has a program that all parents with children, no matter if they have decided parenting or not, they have to go to the it's remote now. It used to be in person, and listen to a program on the effects of divorce on children. And a lot of it is the really bad stories that you hear and how it can detrimentally affect the children. So that's mandatory. And then the next thing is, if they haven't reached a parenting agreement, they have to go to parenting mediation through the court system. It's free. It is in Morris County, which is where my office is. It's wonderful. We have wonderful mediators. And that's all they do. They're hired by the state. They mediate people to help them reach a resolution. It's remote again, but it can be that you have to set aside 2 hours, and there's ground rules. No phones, no distractions. The children can't be anywhere around, obviously. Because,
right.
That's very important. And you just roll up your sleeves, and how are you going to do this? And as I say, the mediators that we have are great. And we've gotten some, I would say probably more than 50% of the time, something great comes out of that. If not, then we move forward, and we have a case management order that states, it's signed by the judge, and it says this will happen. That's also where it will set up the mediation. That's in the case management order. And then when your discoveries due, when your case information statements due, when all your, the kind of paperwork that needs to be done to get to the end game. And so if you need to have discovery, you ask for certain documents from your spouse. They ask for certain documents from you. We exchange them. We try to keep them limited, because this is a divorce action. It's not, a massive class action suit here. And maybe you could save this money for your kids to go to college, is what I'm always thinking. So we do try to the attorneys try to talk and say, hey, how can we limit this? And keep it, to a dull roar. The next thing that comes along is what's called an early settlement panel. And you can see, I hope, from the way I'm describing this, is that the family courts are very, very conscious of helping people settle. They don't want to see these cases go to trial. And it's not because they're lazy or they hate trials or whatever else you could say. It's because having a stranger decide what's going to happen to your children's lives and your lives, it's a bad idea. And we have great judges. It's not at all, derogatory towards what they do. They do amazing jobs, but they have they hear a limited testimony. They can only hear things that can be put into evidence. They can't hear hearsay. There's rules to bringing something to court.
Right.
And this stranger is making judgments on what's going to happen with your children, what's going to happen with your money, what schools the children are going to go to, public, private, what colleges. It's something that we really need to figure out.
Yeah. No. So what you've shared is that built into the system are sort of like stop gaps or stop moments.
Yes.
Where you can stop the rush of the emotion and the fight, and give yourself a breathing space to start negotiating, to start making decisions. And the fact that all of these moments are built into the process, message to the divorcing families that the best role is for this decision making to be yours, not to be ours. We are not here to say you were bad, so you get less. Right. And if you think that by waiting for your day in court, the judge is going to agree with that assessment, you're probably wrong.
Yes.
Because one of the things that I was a takeaway from my coaching training is there is no justice in divorce.
No.
It's not about who's right or wrong. It could just be about equitable distribution. It could just be about the kids need both their parents. And even if you think that your spouse is a slime bucket, they're still your children's parents.
Right.
And so there are things that are going to happen that you don't like if you leave it to the court. So take the time to start thinking about these decisions so you have the decision-making power.
Absolutely. It's a control issue. If you make those decisions and you really are concerned about you could just have a difference in discipline. or bedtimes, or you're going to run into these roadblocks. Absolutely. But if it's the two of you deciding, then first of all, the kids see that again, and it's going to be a decision that makes sense for your family. A judge, again, limited information, thinks back, oh, well, when my kids were that age, they went to bed at 8, so I'm going to order that they go to bed at 8.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes no sense for you to give that power to someone else over your children.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, and I like how you just framed it. It makes no sense for you to give the power of your family dynamics to a stranger.
Yep.
And that's huge. And so what I hear from you is that you are the lawyer who counsels their clients on those moments that they can step away from the edge, right?
Yes.
They can step away from the ledge where there's a point of no return.
Yes.
And I appreciate that. I'm sure your clients appreciate that.
I think so. Yeah.
So we're getting toward the end.
Mhm.
I don't know if we went through every step in the process, but what we know for sure is that if all efforts at settlement fail,
Mhm.
that's when you go to trial.
Yes.
And people still settle before the trial is decided, just like on the courthouse steps, right? It can still happen.
It can still happen. It's harder because you've put all this energy now into being in a fight.
Yes.
So it does happen, and I will encourage it to happen. And I'm always saying, look, we can talk before the trial starts. We'll ask the judge for a half hour, whatever you want. But you've set yourself up, unfortunately, for a fight. You've thought about how I'm going to present this to make the other person look bad, or whatever the situation
No,
is.
but so what I often say is, what do you want to be in relationship with? Your children or the fight? Because so much of their identity is now defined by the fight.
Yes.
And so that's all they can see. So again, it's about reducing that fighting energy in a way that is empowering and not diminishing.
Yes. And there is no winning. There just isn't.
No.
This isn't a win or lose.
Yeah. It's a learning is what it is. And you're learning that your future is going to look different, but that's not the worst thing in the world.
No.
So
it's not.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Anne, for being an amazing guest and a wonderful attorney. Tell my audience, how can they get in touch with you?
They can get in touch. My office is in Chester, New Jersey. We cover all the surrounding counties, pretty much northern New Jersey. Phone number is 908-879-9499. Reach out and we'll do a strategy session and see where you are.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lisa.
And for my audience, you can always find me at lisa@lzlcoaching.com and my website, lzlcoaching.com. You're listening to Dishing on Divorce. We'll see you next time.